Hello there, Year 10. So we are carrying on with our Christmas Carol. Today we're going to look at the Ghost of Christmas Present and also Christmas Amongst the Poor. Remember that all of this is revision. It's looking at things you've already explored with your teachers, but we're revisiting them, ready to do our assessment next week. Okay, so let's get cracking. As always, we are going to start with a silent do now. So we have got 4 questions there on A Christmas Carol and 6 questions there on an Inspector Calls. So pause the screen now and have a go at those questions. All right, let's go through these together. So what's peculiar, what's strange about the Ghost of Christmas Past's head? Well, we know it has a jet of light, a bright jet of light projecting from it. He appears as a candle. Number 2, how does Scrooge get rid of this ghost? He grabs the ghost's cap and he pushes it down over his head to extinguish the light, to put the light out. The light represents the truth, and Scrooge cannot handle the truth of what he's been shown. He's just been shown all of those events from his past, and he begs, "Take me back, haunt me no more," and he pushes the ghost's cap down over his head to get rid of that truth, that light. In the opening of the novella, Bob Cratchit tries to warm himself over his candle, though he has one piece of coal on the fire, and we know that Scrooge keeps the coal scuttle in his room and Cratchit is not allowed any more coal. Again, this is Dickens emphasising the great extent of Scrooge's miserly ways, his meanness. And number 4, why does Belle release Scrooge for their engagement? She says, "Another idol has displaced me, a golden one." She knows that in his heart he now loves money, not her. And so she releases him from the engagement and walks away. She knows that as a dowerless girl, a poor girl, she brings nothing of value to the relationship because Scrooge has started to value everything in monetary terms. Let's look now at an Inspector Calls. So the inspector in his exit speech talks about if men will not learn these lessons, they will be taught them in blood and fire and anguish. And this foreshadows World War One. The play is written in 1945, but it's set in 1912, 2 years before the outbreak of World War One. World War II also falls within that period, and Priestley is using dramatic irony there to show that the inspector is all-knowing, omniscient. He's able to tell the future. Number 2. The characters most changed by the inspector's visit are Sheila and Eric Burling. These 2 characters both represent the younger generation, and Priestley believed that they were the hope for the future. It would be the young generation that transforms society into a better place. That's why he shows that Sheila and Eric have this enormous capacity for change. At the end of the meal, at the start of the play, Burling thanks the cook, and Mrs. Burling says one shouldn't say such things. It's a social faux pas, it's a mistake, and it shows that Burling is ignorant. He is not socially refined. We know that his wife is his superior, and it's Priestley there letting us know that Burling is ignorant. This is continued with Priestley's use of dramatic irony. When talking about the Titanic, Burling says, "It's unsinkable." We know that it sunk on its maiden voyage. It again shows, number 5 there, Burling is really ignorant. He doesn't know what he's talking about. And we dislike Mr. Burling from the start because we see he's full of his own self-importance, but he's so ignorant, he doesn't know what he's talking about. And it's Mrs. Burling that says those words, "I was the only one of you who didn't give in to him." And she's really proud of the fact that she didn't give in. She prides herself on not accepting responsibility for her actions. We see that she has shown no change at all from the start of the play. Okay, so let's have a look at This is A Christmas Carol, Stave 3, and it's the moment that Scrooge meets the ghost of Christmas present, that jolly green giant, that total embodiment of Christmas spirit. So we're going to read a portion of the novella in which Scrooge meets this second of the spirits. Now, the extract is here in the video. There's 4 slides. I would encourage you to pause each slide and read it. It's also as a Word document in this folder, and I also know that many of you have your own copy of the text, and we're starting to read at the start of Stave 3 and you'll see where it ends. So as we read, we're going to think about, how does Dickens use language to communicate the character of this ghost? What does he look like? What does he say? What does he do? How's he presented here? How do you think we're supposed to respond to him as readers? So we'll go through, pause each slide, read it carefully. If you can print it off and make notes on it, fantastic. It is available as a Word document in the folder. So here's the first slide. Let me just move that down for you so you've got a clear view of the text. I would say pause this now and read it through. Here's the second instalment. Pause it now and read it through. The third instalment. Pause it now and read it through. And finally, the 4th page there, pause it now and read it through. And we are thinking about how Dickens uses language to communicate the character of the ghost. What does he look like? What does he say? What does he do? So go through those 4 slides and highlight anything that tells us about the ghost. What is he wearing? What's his physical appearance? What's he sat upon? What's he surrounded by? We know that he is the total embodiment, the total personification of Christmas and Christmas spirit. Where do we see that evidence in the text? Okay, we're now going to think about Scrooge's reaction to this ghost. We're going to think about, how does he react to this second ghost? We're going to look at these 7 key pieces of information in the text that tells us how Scrooge reacts to the ghost. And we're going to think about, what does this information communicate about Scrooge right here, right now in the novella? And how does this Scrooge at this point compare with the Scrooge at the start of the novella? So let's have a look at these 7 pieces of evidence and the methods used. You can see I've colour coordinated the methods. You'll know from when we explored kinesics, it is a movement that a character makes to communicate their emotions. Hiding your face in your hands, covering your face with your hands, shows sadness or shame. You can see here in pink the kinesics. We've got in green descriptive language, and we've got here, remember, Dickens is the narrator. He's an intrusive narrator. That means he comments directly on what's going on. He offers his opinion. And we've got his narration here. So let's look at them. Scrooge entered timidly. He hung his head. He was not the dogged Scrooge he had been. He did not like to meet them. He couldn't meet the eyes of the spirit. Muttered Scrooge. Said Scrooge submissively. And finally, Scrooge did as he was told and held it fast. So we're going to think about each of these pieces of evidence and what they might tell us about Scrooge at this stage of the novella. In the exam, you are going to pick out, you've obviously got to say what you understand from the extract you're looking at. AO1, what is the meaning, the implicit and explicit meaning in the text? AO2 is all about the writer's methods. What have they used? Here are our methods. And what do they communicate to the reader? How do they affect the reader? And we're going to have a look at, we're going to take those 7 pieces of evidence, and you're going to take 2 of those pieces of evidence, and for each one you're going to compile a paragraph that shows how Dickens is showing Scrooge at this moment of the novella. And we're going to think, as always, what, how, and why. What is Scrooge like? How is this shown? The evidence, and obviously what that implies, what that shows to us as readers, and why. Why does Dickens show Scrooge to be that way at this point in the novella? Now you're going to compile 2 paragraphs. Take one piece of the evidence here and compile a what, how paragraph for it. Take another piece of evidence here and compile a what, how, why paragraph for that second piece of evidence. Now I've got 2 to show you. I'm focusing on the fact, first of all, that he entered timidly, and secondly, I'm focusing on the evidence that Scrooge did as he was told. So I am focusing on number 1 and number 7. So I would urge you in your responses to choose different evidence. Choose 2, 3, 4, 5 or 6. Okay, but I'm using 1 and 7 to show you as an example. And you'll see that I've got a writing frame here. I've got a really common sense writing frame for the what. In his encounter with the second spirit, Dickens presents Scrooge as what? How is he feeling? What is he like? Through what method? Kinesics, dialogue, description. Then we're going to think about the how. We see that Scrooge, where's my evidence? What does that evidence show? What does it imply? What does that evidence allow us to understand? And why? Why does Dickens do this? What's his big idea? What does Dickens want us to understand at this part of the novella? So let's look at my first example. I'm not going to read this out just for time. Pause it, read it. You'll see that the what is in yellow, the how is in blue, and the why is in grey. You'll see that I've got what Dickens presents Scrooge as, shy and uncertain. We have got there zooming in on the evidence. We've zooming in there on what it implies, what it allows us to understand. And then we've got here why Dickens does it, his big idea. That's my first example. Pause the screen, read it now. Here's my second example. Again, you can see we've got the what in yellow. Scrooge is submissive and obedient. And he's presented him like that through his intrusive narration. We've got the how. This is the writer's methods and how they affect the reader, what they allow us to see and understand. And again, we've got the why. What is Dickens' big idea? This is our AO3. This is our context. This is thinking about our writer's intentions and the context. So you can see there that both my examples, pause this one and have a good read of number 2. You'll see both my examples have the what, the how, and the why. Okay, so you are now going to do 2 paragraphs of your own. Use my writing frame, use my approach, and have a really good go at that. We're now going to think about the Ghost of Christmas Present. He takes Scrooge on a journey of discovery across London and he sees various groups of poor people. We're going to look at these extracts and we're going to think about how is Christmas spirit shown in each example. How are the people affected by Christmas spirit? How do they behave? What is it that transforms them from ordinary everyday people, ordinary, everyday, dull lives into something wonderful and bright? Here's extract 1, the chimney sweeps. Pause it, and read it and think about those key questions. What is transforming the chimney sweeps? Next, the shopkeepers. Pause it, read it. What is transforming the shopkeepers? Lastly, the churchgoers. Pause it, read it. What is transforming the churchgoers? So we've got here the secret of Christmas happiness. This is what it's all about. The Spirit's incense, the Spirit's joy is the factor that transforms the men from being poor and dull to being full of joy. Read this really carefully Make some notes on this. And finally, pause this screen now. These are your notes for the book. This ties together everything we've looked at today. Thank you.